Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. On October 4th, Illinois Congressman Jerry Costello announced he would not seek re-election to his Metro East seat. Mr. Costello has been a Southern Illinois Congressman since 1988, when he won a special election to replace the late Melvin Price. Rodger Cook announced that he wants that job. Mr. Cook, a Republican, served as Belleville Illinois mayor from 1993 to 1997. Currently is a business development officer for a bank consulting and accounting firm in Belleville. He has written that many well-intended but misguided big government programs from Washington end up undermining the foundation of our communities, our schools, our churches, and families. Mr. Cook is with us today to explain why the people of the 12th Illinois District should send him to Congress as their representative. Rodger Cook, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you, Lee.
Glad to have you with us
Nice
today.
to be here.
This is our first time that we had an opportunity to meet. And you want this, what some people consider this awful job of being a congressman and having to go to Washington, D.C. Can you tell us why you want to do this and what people should expect from you?
It's pretty clear, Lee, that our country's in a lot of trouble. Financially, we're going bankrupt. We're nearing almost $15 trillion in debt. There's no jobs. I'm a father, grandfather, 5 children, 5 grandchildren, and I'm worried about the future of the country. And I want to go to Washington, D.C. I want to win this seat in 2012 and go there and make a difference. And I truly believe, as I did when I was mayor, I'm going to do this time. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and make a difference.
Other than running for mayor, have you run for other political offices?
No.
So you have 4 years as mayor, and all right. So what's your purpose? How do I put this? If you go there to Washington, and if you had your way, what would be the look of the country 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now?
I would love to see that the budget would be on a track to be balanced. It could be 6, 7, 8 years down the road, but we get to a balanced budget. That we see a president, administration do what JFK did in the 60s, early 60s, and do what Ronald Reagan did in the 80s. Cut taxes across the board. The wage earners in this country get to keep more of what they make. They invest it, they save it, they create jobs with it, and get this economy going. Create jobs, get the economy going, balance the budget out so our children have a future in this country. It's still the greatest country in the world. It's not too late. In 2012, after this election, we have a historical opportunity to change the direction of this country. And it's one of the main reasons that I watched the debate over the debt ceiling recently, as many, I hope everybody did. And I'm so proud of those that stood in there and fought the fight to bring up the reducing the size of government, to instead of just the old tax and spend policy, let's do it like history shows it works.
You're from Belleville originally?
Actually, I was born in East St. Louis.
Right.
Grew up as a youth in Fairview Heights until '71 when I was a freshman in high school. My mom moved to Belleville, lived in Belleville until 11 years ago, and now I live in St. Liboria, Illinois. I've lived in this district, the 12th Congressional District, all my life. The last 14 years of my business career, I've worked in the southern part of this district, in Tams, in Cairo, in Murfreesboro, in Carbondale, in DuQuoin, in Pinckneyville, in Waterloo, in Columbia, in Mount Vernon, in St. Liboria, you name it. I've been in every city. I have friends, business relationships, and so I'm very familiar with the 12th Congressional District. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find any individual in Southern Illinois that knows this district from top to bottom better than I, especially business-wise.
Well, you need to know the territory.
Absolutely.
And you need to know the wants and desires of the people. Belleville and Southern Illinois at one time was very, very industrial. He used to manufacture a lot of stuff, and that doesn't happen much anymore. There used to be that a guy could come out of high school, or not even come out of high school, and could go to work for one of these foundries or one of these factories and make a decent living for his family. But we don't have that anymore. What is it that we're going to do from your perspective as a nation in order to, you said jobs, so my question is, what is it we're going to do in order to create, as a nation, because government doesn't create jobs, people in the nation creates jobs, what are we going to do to encourage people in that job creation process?
I was asked this same question when I was interviewed down at the Southern Illinois and in Carbondale by the big paper in Southern Illinois. What are you going to do? What if you could do one thing for the people of the southwestern part of this district, what would you do? And my exact words were create jobs. Now I agree, government doesn't create jobs, but they can stifle it, which this administration has done with over taxes, over regulation. What I say is get government out of our life. Let the free market go, let the businessmen create jobs. Let the people keep more, invest more, save more. And you know what? Not only will we grow jobs, but we'll grow revenue to the Treasury. Look at the facts. Back when Kennedy and Reagan did, they grew the Treasury by reducing taxes because they created more jobs, which brought more people paying into the United States Treasury. So it's not like I'm here saying anything new. I'm saying to this administration, do it now. You know, even you can go back to when Bill Clinton was president and the Republicans took over the House. Newt Gingrich, the contract with America, things were slow. The Republicans wanted to pass cuts and jobs, legislation, regulation, get regulation off them, and President Clinton went along with them. They not only did that, they balanced the budget, didn't they? And President Clinton worked together. So not only do we have to have the right ideas and thoughts, but you know what, we got to get politics out of it, and we got to be able to reach across the aisle and debate issues that aren't good for a party, but were good for the country. And I think you can do that. I think you can take a good message, look across with somebody that may be on a different party, but also may really care about this country and the people they serve, and get the job done.
The idea that you cut taxes and that increases revenue, while you may believe that, and while there may be many in the Republican Party who believe that, I know from having talked to a number of people, including some perhaps in this very room, who think that that's nonsense, that when you cut taxes, that all you're doing is starving the government, and that worse yet, you're increasing the debt because we're not collecting enough money to pay the expenses of the government, therefore we're borrowing money. How do you, when you run into somebody like that on the campaign trail, what do you say to someone like that?
I'm going to ask them, if you really want to know, go back in history and look at the facts and look at the numbers. And you know, I'll repeat one number that I recently read. And it came from, you know, a source on the internet. And it took President Kennedy in '61. There were $95 billion coming into the Treasury in '61. When he reduced taxes across the board, 20% reduction in the top rate, by 1968, $153 billion were coming into the Treasury. Jobs were created. It was a boom time. The economy got going. So I think, and if you look back at the numbers of President Reagan, you can say the same thing. So I think economists say that. I think when you get caught up in the political side of it, that's when you get, I think, mixed up. You know, as I do, you can watch a television show or a news show, and depending on where you watch, what story you're going to get, what economist you're going to get, you know what? I think history is probably the best place to look to get the facts, because they did it, and they reported it, and it's written.
I'm not sure facts count for much anymore, frankly. When I listen to, say for example, a topic is discussed on MSNBC, the same topic is discussed on Fox Cable News and or CNN. It's just amazing to me the point of view of the people who are talking is very different. Their idea of what reality is seems to be at odds with the MSNBC, Fox News would be the greatest poll, and they each seem to be at odds with what reality is. And that's why I say I'm not sure that there is any longer some recognizable middle ground where people actually say, yeah, this is basic reality here. So you live in a district which has been a Democrat area probably your whole life. I mean, Melvin Price started in Congress in 1944, and then Jerry Costello followed in '88. So you've had basically two congressmen since the end of World War II that have represented your area, both of whom were Democrats, although I suspect that those Democrats wouldn't necessarily, or Melvin Price wouldn't recognize what Nancy Pelosi is trying to do as a Democrat. But nevertheless, there are heaps of people in there who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. It's like a religion. How do you convince these people to change religions?
Well, you know, I'll say to you that if you go down throughout our district, if it's in Belleville, if it's in Granite City, if it's down south in Jonesboro, Anna, Illinois, you talk to the people and you know how they're struggling, how tough it is, the economy today. I'm hard-pressed to believe that those people that have a very strong moral values and are people that are hardworking people, and they see this economy beaten into the ground with over-regulations and more taxes, more cost to do business. And they're saying, hey, this has got to stop. And you know, these people may have been Democrats, may be Democrats, but you know what? They're not going to vote to support Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and this administration's policy going forward. They've had enough. And you know what? It may be against what they were always, had always been or always voted, but they've had enough. And I'm convinced of that. And one of the reasons that I decided to run, because I have spoke to a lot of people down there, and they're a lot of my friends. And they, like me, think we need change, and I'm willing to step forth and fight the fight.
So you think that you're middle enough that folks who are traditional Democrats would go and say, yeah, Rodger's okay. We can trust him to look out for our needs.
People that I'm a very conservative person. I'll honestly admit that. I'm conservative in a lot of areas, especially fiscally. I've owned businesses myself. I know what it takes to run a business. Number one thing, it takes a lot of hard work. And, but I would say that I'm a conservative but fair person. People down south know me. They know me in different areas, from business to athletics to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes that I've been a long-time supporter and board member of, and helped them form fundraising events down south. So they know me, they know who I am, they know what I stand for, and sure, I'm no different than the people in Belleville or the people in deep Southern Illinois.
Well, okay, hopefully, I mean, you remember the campaign in 2008, it was hope, you know.
Hope and change.
Hope and change, okay. Because there was nothing specific that was like, nobody from the Obama administration said that at the end of 4 years, this is what the world is going to look like as far as I'm concerned. And as, well, so when the Republicans come to bat now in 2012, I'm hoping that it's not just going to be playing on a rejection of Obama-ism, but some sort of an offer of, here's where we want to go. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. I'm not going to Congress to be a congressman. I'm not going to Congress to be a member of a party. I'm going to take our people's seat back. I'm going to go to Congress and do exactly what I said I was going to do. I am going to be for balancing the budget, getting taxes and regulation off the producers in this country, create jobs, get the economy going, and That is my main focus, job one. And I know we can do it. You talked earlier about the whip. Hey, you know, this is what I told the people.
No, this was actually before we went on the air. And what I said to you was that in most political organizations, the whip walks down the aisle and tells members of his party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, fellas, this is how we're voting today.
Yeah, and there's people that know me. I mean, I am very strong in my convictions. Nothing means more to me than when I tell you something, you know I'm going to do it. And this is what needs to be done. It's obvious. People are tired of individuals and what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I'm not going to change. If I'm there 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, I'm coming back home, have my head up, and people will respect me.
Well, as a businessman, let's just say that the U.S. government, as a business, has a big debt. And we do. We have this enormous debt of close to $15 trillion, which is an unimaginably large number. But nevertheless, there it is. Is there some way in your mind of being able to pay this, I was going to say pay it off, but at least pay it down?
Yes. You know, I've read some of the plans out there, not to name any, because you see once you name one, then it gets demagogued. There's a lot of people out there that have put forth plans. Unlike what's currently going on in government, we haven't passed a budget since President Obama's been there, which is mind-boggling for someone that had to do that as a mayor. But our federal government somehow gets around even passing a budget.
Continuing resolutions, which are weird devices that they use. But
yeah, it's just being honest and straightforward and governing like it's your business. I mean, what can I say? But probably lost touch with the exact question after I went off on the budget.
The real question is, as a businessman, what do we do specifically about reducing this $15 trillion? Now, the reason that I bring this up is that earlier today I was examining some numbers from the Treasury Department. There is such a thing, believe it or not, as the Bureau of Public Debt. And they have a website. And on this website, one of their sites, they actually list how much interest is being paid on the United States debt. And they have each month of the current fiscal year. And then they also list how much total interest was paid per year all the way back to 1988. This last fiscal year, which ended at the end of September of 2011, we hit a new record. We paid just over $452 billion in interest. And this is where people are missing the boat about the meaning of adding more debt to the United States government, because that number keeps going up. That's $9 billion a week. $9 billion a week. Now, we could do a lot with $9 billion, but paying it off right off the top in interest is a real problem. So again, I ask, as a business person, what do we do about reducing this $9 billion a week expense?
Well, it's not going to be easy, but it's clear that you see people from one side of the aisle that won't even admit we have a problem, that they don't see the debt as even a problem. First, you have to admit it, and you have to sit across the table and work together and do things that are going to save this country's fiscal situation. I believe from the plans that I've seen, and we have different individuals in Congress that have put forth plans, and I can name them, but they're out there. They could be 7, 8 years out, which seems like a long time, but you know, if we're worried about sustainability and we're worried about can we do it, yes, we can do it. This plan does it, but it takes it far out, farther than I would like to. But you know, we've got a problem. We've got some very smart individuals in Congress, and they know what the problem is. What we have to do is bring everybody together to admit it and start working on it, and maybe adopting things from this plan and this plan that make the most sense to get our country into a balanced situation at some point down the road. So we have a future. So I definitely, believe me, I'm a very positive thing. It's going to take a lot of work. It's not going to be fun, but we can.
Well, you mentioned that people have to first admit that there's a problem. Do you think that the people who you are talking to in Anna, in Carbondale, in all these Southern Illinois cities, all the way from Belleville south in the district, East St. Louis, are there enough of them who have voted for Jerry Costello in the past that are willing to admit this and are willing to start to make these corrections, or are they unwilling to do that?
They're ready to make a change in a big way. In a big way. Not only did a lot of the district support the presidential candidate in the last election that may not have been from their party, but it's going to go even in a bigger number in Southern Illinois this year. I'm convinced of it from what I know and who I've talked to.
Okay.
So I think that, you know, let's mention the youth. Let's mention the kid. I've got a daughter, 21, that's in school. I got a daughter that just graduated law school, can't find a job. I've got a son that's 26. My daughter's going to be a teacher. There's no jobs. There's no jobs. What do you think the young people of this country, they bought into the hope and change. No facts, no, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be, you know, there's no specifics out there. You know, I think they've learned a lesson. You know, before you vote for somebody just because you want change, you better look a little deeper. And I think you're going to see a change there. I think the latest report I've seen, 30% of the youth vote has already left the president. And that's because they're suffering. I mean, it's tough when you get out of college. You've got college loan payments. You want to start your life. You worked hard to get an education, and there's nothing there for you. It's tough. So I think people are paying more attention today because, you know, sometimes you're forced to pay attention.
Jobs come from the wealth production process. You know, that jobs don't just exist. And unfortunately, in the United States, we're not producing as much wealth as we used to produce. Southern Illinois coal is an area of great wealth production, and yet there are some in the United States government that want to shut that down. I think I know what you're going to say, but please discuss your feelings about Southern Illinois coal.
Well, if I was sitting here on the family farm and I looked right across the road there's the new Prairie State Energy Complex in Lively Grove, Illinois. We have a family farm of over 200 acres out there from my wife's side. And I can't tell you what that Prairie State Energy Complex has meant to the surrounding cities throughout that whole area. Every apartment that was for rent is rented. Every house that was for sale sold. Every little convenience store, gasoline stop, every little restaurant and pub filled. The money that that place generated over the past few years as they were building that, now the permanent jobs there. There's a lot of coal, clean coal technology that doesn't hurt our environment. We need to do as much as that as possible. We need to give the permits out. We got to quit stifling our economy by trying to worry about if natural gas is the best, which is the cheapest. If we need to drill oil, we have ways to drill oil, do it safely, and we'll use one problem, and all of a sudden all the permits are stopped for any drilling. So, you know, I think we got to be careful, but you know what, those are jobs. It gets us off of foreign oil. We can build them, create jobs here, and do it ourselves. Let businesses in our country be the ones doing it. And I am a big believer that we have to get moving forward on clean coal technology, on oil, look at nuclear. You know, if you talk about solar and wind, that's great, but they're so expensive compared to natural gas. It's just, there's no competition. They can't even compete. So until somebody comes up with a way that they can produce solar or wind power as cheap as natural gas, what the heck, right? It's a free market economy, and people want what's the best deal.
We have about 3 or 4 minutes left. I told you before we started that time goes by
pretty
fast
darn quick,
here.
yeah.
Right. So, if there's anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to say to the listeners, go ahead and say it now.
I guess if I could say that, you know, all my life, you know, from playing athletics, teachers, coaches were a huge part of my life. You know, growing up as a young man, grew up without a father. And my mom had to raise us. It was tough. But you know, I had special teachers, special coaches that helped along the way. I'm very blessed to grow up in this district in Fairview Heights and then into Belleville as I got into high school. Was lucky enough to get a full ride to college to play football, signed a free agent contract with the St. Louis Cardinals in '79, got a couple checks, was cut, and then became a police officer. From there, in private business, mayor, and in the bank consulting business with a CPA firm. I've had a diverse background. I've been in business. I know the district. I've worked with, I have friends throughout the district, relationship in business and friends. I think I got a unique perspective from a guy that had nothing to a guy that's everything he's ever earned, he's worked hard for. I believe if you work hard and don't ever give up, then you're going to be successful. And I'm not someone that's been born to be a politician. I'm running because I know I can make a difference, and I'm ready to take a stand, and I have enough confidence in my ability that I can go out and meet people like you and people throughout the district and say, hey, my name's Rodger Cook. I'm running for Congress, and I'd like your support. I'd like your vote, and get to know me.
So let's see. Right now, we're this is actually going to be playing sometime in November, but we're sitting here at the more or less at the beginning of October. So you've got over a year. Well, I guess
primaries in March.
When is the primary in Illinois?
Primary, I believe, is March 20th, if I'm not mistaken.
So if you get past,
got to win the primary first.
Right. So that's your main. That's your.
So
main
everybody
goal.
vote Rodger Cook in the primary.
Right. Go and vote. Actually.
Yeah, go and vote. Vote right. Republican.
Too many people think that the only time to vote is in a general election.
Exactly.
And then they wonder why there aren't, why there aren't better candidates on the ballot.
And you know what I'd really like to do is send a message to my Democratic friends, good friends that I know that have a hard time going in and taking a Republican ballot in a primary. Do it. Make a difference. Do something for your kids in the future. One time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's this program will also, they may be watching it on YouTube right now, and if that's the case, I encourage people, because it benefits, go and send the link to other people.
Sure, cookforcongress.org. Our website's up, but we'll be putting additional stuff up, but please get on there and spread the word.
Mm-hmm. And any last comments at all, or is that...
Well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, Lee. It was great meeting you, and I just hope to let people know that I gave my job up about a week ago, and I am full-time campaigning because this means so much to me, and it's going to be a long run, but we're really excited about it, and I have a lot of faith in the people.
Thank you very much
for
being
Lee.
with us today. I appreciate it. And to my audience, I've been speaking with Rodger Cook. He is candidate for Jerry Costello's seat. I'm sure if you're in the district, you know who Jerry Costello is, and Mr. Costello has decided to retire, and Mr. Cook is the man who would like to replace him. For those of you who are regulars, we'll see you next week.